Yeah, welcome to Beyond Perception, dear listeners. Also today it's about discovering reality and who we really are. And my name is Simon and I have the true pleasure to be here today with Elena Bensonoff and Alejandro Ferradas. Elena, with over 20 years of experience, you are a pioneer in the field of functional, regenerative, and quantum medicine and the founder of holistic.com. Alejandro, you're the founder of Life Flow Catalyst, and you're using your intuition, your gifts for, I believe, also over 20 years to help people live a life abundant in love and joy. And the both of you, you're offering vibrational frequency analysis. That's also how we first connected. And you're leading and hosting vibrational revelations, which is also why we're here today. So it's really great. It's a true pleasure to be here with you again. So welcome, Elena and Alejandro.
Thank you so much. We're so happy to be back here with you. Last time we had so much fun, so we said let's do it again.
So did I. And thank you very much for following the invitation and to have another conversation. So I'm really excited.
Yes, definitely. You know, we truly appreciate your lists because last time you sent us a list, and of course, it's through questioning, right, that we begin to explore our reality deeper and deeper. And we absolutely love the list that you've created last time, and of course this time too, because many of those principles we've never heard of. For us, it was also incredible insight.
I'm quite curious what we will be discovering today. And I just told you before, our first conversation was around 6 months ago. And to me it was very, very interesting and provided some really good new insights. And at that time we looked at different worldviews, and I believe also today we might look at some new perspectives of worldviews. So I'm quite curious. And probably we will talk about some themes or objects which you don't really hear a lot about, or which are not really in the have a lot of publicity. I believe so. I'm really curious, and look forward to what we're discovering today.
Yes, it's definitely very, very nice to confirm what one feels about these different characters, with confirming with numbers. And that really helps you to fine-tune your ability to discern what is and what is not, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I don't know, before we start, one thing I wanted to ask you, because we had, gladly or luckily, we had quite some new listeners joining over the last month. So I don't know, I believe not all the new listeners, they know about the scale of consciousness or what you're doing exactly. And they might also not have watched our first episode, which I can only recommend at that time to everybody to watch it, because there also you provide a bit of like detailed context about what you're doing. But would you mind just like providing a brief context again, like what you're doing exactly, what are you measuring?
Yes. So it depends if we're looking at a person, public figure, right, historical figure, or of course organizations or systems in general, right? So we look at a variety of different categories. So for example, for people, we look at over 34 categories now, which I believe last time when we did our show with you, since that time we've incorporated quite a few more new categories. So we do apply the scale of consciousness, which originated from Dr. Hawkins, but he looked at one number for each person, and we're looking at the vast amount of numbers. We incorporate scalar wave technology to read this. So we're not using kinesiology for those people that are questioning or curious. We found for us personally that it was a lot easier to influence if we were using kinesiology, right? Because we would be deeply connected. In this way, we take ourselves completely out in doing those measurements. So the numbers are as they are. And it's been truly a beautiful experience because we've also learned so much from it, recognizing that every human being is important. Even though we're giving these numbers, for some people it would be, oh, you're measuring and kind of, it's a grading system. system, absolutely. It's not, because every human being incarnates and plays an important role in their own unique journey. So it's about honoring people. And today we're going to talk about different teachers. Some of them we've never heard of, and it's based on the list that you provided. And for those people that resonate with those teachers, it's important to keep in mind that perhaps on your journey, that teacher was instrumental in your growth. So it doesn't mean that that teacher has to be discredited, but acknowledged that that was the right teacher for that time of your journey. And we, of course, all grow and graduate, as Alejandro will say. So therefore, then we're attracting others. And perhaps also it's a recognition that no one is above, no one is below. So, and someone always is here to show us something important or teach us something important. So there's absolutely insight that we can take from everything and everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Awesome. And I just shared that with you before, that I find on my own journey that different teachings or different teachers, they were helpful at a certain period in time, but now, or where I am now, I resonate with other things. So it's kind of everything was valuable or helpful, but which I encountered through my life at that stage, but it's not better or worse than something else. So that is something I'm realizing for myself more and more, that the experiences are not better in a way, or but they're just different in a sense. So that's something I'm reflecting on, and and that's also the scale of consciousness I find very helpful as a concept to see that there is a different that there are different experiences a human can experience, but they're not necessarily better or worse, or someone who is at a certain frequency is bad or so. It's just different. So that's something I learned also thanks to you. So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's often people ask us, how do I know what is true, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we say, well, just pay attention to the way you feel, and follow what resonates with you, like you mentioned, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Follow what resonates with you until it no longer resonates with you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because one changes, and we are constantly expanding and growing, but by paying attention and tuning into the way we feel, then we can decide if we remain where we're at or we're ready for something new, right?
And I just thought about it because we actually did a vibrational frequency lifetime analysis with you, right? We did the frequency and the lifetime.
Yeah.
And you can see your own journey, right? Through all the numbers. Yeah. And this is a great way to reflect of perhaps what you were attracting at that time was an absolute match for you, right? Or it gave you enough space to grow into that frequency of that time. And then, of course, you've graduated from that frequency. So therefore, you're attracting something very different at the moment.
Yeah.
Have you come across to a teaching now for the second time that you didn't pay attention to 10, 15 years ago, and that now it resonates, but it didn't before?
Yeah, what I realize is, so I have resented the Bible, yeah. Yeah, and God, like how I got introduced to God as a personified like person. What I now interestingly experience is that I can make sense of things which are in the Bible, yeah. So I can see them, or I don't know, like understand is maybe the wrong word, but
discern.
But I see that. The truth is a big word, but I can see what it refers to, what it relates to, and so what I recognize, well, no, it's interesting. I'm not reading the Bible, but I get introduced to like Bible passages or quotes or so, which yeah, true, yeah. So that makes sense, yeah. And so so that's maybe an example where I can see how I find things which I have been exposed to, but I like that sounded so much for doctrine and suppression at that time. I couldn't see like without, or I see now my perception is less influenced by what other people say or what I experience. I can see more clearly, and I find, yeah, and then that's maybe an example. Yeah, so I can.
Yes, that's perfect. Yes, I totally agree with you. I think we all have experienced that somehow, you know. Definitely. Wonderful.
Huh. And one question though, would you say that that the scale of consciousness is also a scale of truth? That the higher the level of consciousness, the more truthful the theme or the object is, more aligned to whatever absolute truth, or is that...
Yeah, there you go. You just brought up, I will say, the word that makes the difference: absolute truth, right? Because if we just say about truth, my truth doesn't have to be the same as your truth or her truth, right? And as you know, depending on the levels of consciousness that one is experiencing, that truth changes in a way, right?
Yes.
Because the way we process the perception, what we perceive, changes too based on the information that we're paying attention to. Like you mentioned, the things that people say or share with you, as you vibrate higher and you experience higher levels, you tend to pay less and less attention to the intellect or the information, and more to pay attention more to your inner voice, to your inner guidance, which is linked to intelligence, right? So I will say that when it comes to the absolute truth, that is pure alignment with source, pure alignment with the God energy that you're carrying, that everyone carries, right? And that is true resonance. Yes, and then that how that feels like is bliss, balance, harmony, right? So that is really when one is experiencing true wisdom. And just the higher we vibrate, the closer we are to feeling that pureness, that essence, that divine essence, right? Becoming one with it fully. Nothing is distorting that. There's no information between, which is like the space between the observer and that which is being observed. That is space in between. That is absolute truth, because there's no resistance in that space, right?
But you know, based on our conversations with the few people that we actually have read at frequencies, let's just say overall frequencies of 700 and above, and they've had higher frequencies, let's say in personal growth at 950 or beyond, we've recognized that there's absolutely very similar pattern of how did people perceive their environment, how they interpret it, and very much they're very similar. Like the concepts that they're bringing into the world and the conversations they're having might be coming through their own persona, but they're very similar. And we've actually revealed a couple of those people in our community, but also publicly, that are living at this point of life, and they're having very, very similar way of bringing this information into the world. So yes, I would say that it becomes more and more relevant when you go into the really high frequencies, like 700 and higher, of course, with 900s in their chart as well. And you can see that very clearly and hear it.
Yeah. I don't know. Should we start? What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Yeah, maybe as a context of how I came up with most of the list. Yeah, so I believe the theme or the majority is about a certain philosophy or teaching called Advaita Vedanta, and also the teacher Ramana Maharshi. And yeah, I discovered Ramana Maharshi and the book about him I believe, yeah, maybe 5 months ago or so. And yeah, it resonated very much with me, and yeah, helped me shift and change quite some perceptions. And yeah, also touched me beautifully. So yeah, I would love to take this as an opportunity. I don't know, like also maybe a tribute, because yeah, he's not yet, or yeah, I mean, yeah, so that possibly like whoever is intrigued, inspired, yeah, maybe one of you listeners to investigate a little bit further. Yeah, but of course I have no idea what we will be disclosing today. So yeah, yeah, let's go. What do you think? Should we start with Advaita Vedanta?
Yes, of course.
Should I share a few sentences what it is, or
Yes,
Yes, please.
if you like, yes.
Yes.
and of course, a disclaimer, I'm not a scholar here. I'm just sharing with the best of my abilities and understanding. Advaita Vedanta is a school of Hindu philosophy and spiritual experiences to realize the self and gain liberation from suffering. And in Advaita, which literally means non-secondness or not two, which is also often translated as non-dualism, liberation, moksha, Sanskrit, liberation from suffering, rebirth is attained through disidentification from the body-mind complex, the ego, and also the notion of doership, by acquiring knowledge of one's true identity as the self. And the common practice is neti, which is Sanskrit for not this, not that, to kind of discard the illusions, such as thoughts, feelings, experiences, perceptions, identities, to be left with the only reality, the self. So yeah.
Beautiful. All right. So the overall vibrational frequency is 500, which is the frequency of love. And so that was the only number we measured as far as frequency. And now we'll go into percentages, right? And percentages also give you an indication, like we're looking into integrity, right? Integrity of this philosophy. And the integrity is 97%. Okay. Of course, then we're looking into alignment with divine purpose of this philosophical movement, and it's 98%. So it's very much aligned. And the alignment with the mission of when this idea was birthed, right? And it's 100%. And the transparency of this philosophical system is 96%. So I think it's pretty solid, right?
So and there's an offspring, or it's called Neo-Advaita, which emerged out of Advaita Vedanta. Did you also measure that?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the differentiation is that it does not include the traditional language and cultural frames, but just emphasize the direct recognition of the non-existence of the ego without the need of any preparatory practices. And there are some critics about it, that it might lead to only to false intellectual knowledge, but not a true realization of the self.
Fascinating. Okay, so the overall frequency of Neo-Advaita is 250, which is valid. Okay. There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting. So we're looking at integrity. Again, this is integrity of the system to the system, right? And how loyal the system is to its beliefs, right? And it's 100%. As Alejandro said, it's all about the frequency matching with integrity. So, and the truth, right? So what is the truth? So we're looking at the 250 and how loyal they are to that truth. Alignment with divine purpose, 100%. Alignment with its mission, 100%. And transparency is 94%.
Interesting. Yeah,
Interesting. Yes.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yes.
So Ramana Maharshi, I believe he is not part of any philosophy or system, but he was kind of connected to Advaita. And born in 1880 in India. He, at the age of 16, had a death experience where he became aware of his true I or self. And this resulted in a state that he later described as the state of the jnani. And yeah, 6 weeks later, he left home and journeyed to the holy mountain Arunachala in Tiruvannamalai, India, where he took on the role of a sannyasin, which means renouncing of material possession, and remained there for the rest of his life until his death in 1950. And he attracted devotees that regarded him as an avatar and came to him for darshan, the sight of God. And in later years, an ashram grew up around him, where visitors received spiritual instructions by sitting silently in his company, asking questions. And since the 1930s, his teachings have been popularized in the West and also resulting in his worldwide recognition as an enlightened being. Yeah, that's as a context. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Ramana Maharshi incarnated at the frequency of 250, which is the level of neutrality, and was born at the frequency of 100, yes, the level of fear. His overall frequency was 500, level of love. No? So he was in the flow. When it comes to health, he viewed health through the lens of love as well, 500. Finances, 310, level of willingness. Creativity, 600, level of peace. Relationships, 500, level of love. Personal growth, 875, which is, enlightenment begins at the level of 700, right? So you go all the way to 1000. Philanthropy, 500, level of love. Intuition, and this is not how intuitive he was, but what a filter he applied when the information came to him, or came through to him. And it was 450, which is the level of reason, intellect. And with an intuition, now we measure clairaudience. And for him, it was 250. That is the filter that he activated when the messages came through the category of clairaudience, right? Clairsentience, 540. That is the level of joy. Clairvoyance, 450. Claircognizance, 500. Knowing, right? Now we also have incorporated the intelligence aspect, and we measure IQ, EQ, SQ, and AQ, but through the eyes or the lens of consciousness, right? That's not the conventional way of measuring the IQ. So, and for him was under IQ, which is the, he activated the filter of neutrality, yeah? EQ, that is the emotional quotient, 350, level of acceptance. SQ, social quotient, 250, level of neutrality. And AQ, that is the adversary quotient, is at 350, level of acceptance. Now we go into percentages, from 1 up to 100%. And in the joy as of how much fun he was having playing the role of Ramana Maharshi in this reality, and it was 90%. In the ego, how much he was paying attention to thought, right? And it was 60%. And within the ego, there are two types of thoughts, the inferior version of the ego and the superior version of the ego. For him, it was 63% in the inferior out of the 60% in the ego, yes? Now, in the now, how much time he spent in the now, in the present moment, and it was 89%. Integrity, how loyal and faithful he was to his core values and beliefs, his truth, it was 93%. Then we have measured integrity to self, 98%, and integrity to others, 92%. Self-awareness, 96%. clarity, 94%, alignment with divine purpose, 100%, alignment with personal purpose, 100%, compassion, 100%, empathy, 100%.
So to answer your question, as far was he an avatar based on the frequencies we've read of others who were the avatars? That means incarnating and coming in at a frequency of 1000. He was not an avatar. He was a being that transcended these frequencies of 250 and 100 at birth, right? And he's truly walked his hero's journey, being in full commitment to personal growth, which had the enlightenment aspect to that, right? His personal enlightenment and his ability to be truly in his heart, compassionate and empathic. And he embodied that fully because he walked that journey 100%.
Yes.
In his divine and personal purpose.
If you were to interact with him while he was doing something related to the aspect of personal growth, you could feel him as an enlightened being, you know? Because his relationship with that aspect was at 875, as Elena pointed out. Right?
Thank you. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I believe on the list there are a few other teachers, right? So I believe the next would be Nisargadatta Maharaj.
Okay.
Who was also a teacher of Advaita. He lived from 1897 to 1981. And publication in 1973 of the book I Am Dead, English translation of his talks with talks in the place where he gave satsang, brought him worldwide recognition, followers, especially from North America and Europe. He defined spirituality as finding out who you are. Yeah. And when asked who he is, he answered, "I'm neither perceivable nor conceivable."
Fascinating, because it translates beautifully into his frequency. So he incarnated at the frequency of 200, courage. And he was born at the frequency of 50, apathy. And of course, he, I'm sure, walked a hero's journey, because it takes a lot to overcome this 50 frequency, right? Which is apathy, disassociation. So it also says he was born into a very challenging environment, right? And his overall frequency was 250, which is neutrality. So as you just said, I'm neither that, right, nor that. And this is, I would say that what we're about to reveal is a great example of how there is a perfect teacher for every stage of our evolution, right? So let's go through that. Health he viewed through the lens of fear, 100. So there was that unprocessed emotion of body, mind, and soul connection. Finances he viewed through the lens of 250, which is neutrality. Creativity, I would say creativity is about what inspires a person, and when they feel inspired, how do they take action? And for him, it was a frequency of 400, reason. So it shows that he had a very creative mind, having this analytical approach to his creative flow. Relationships he viewed through the lens of 250, neutrality. Personal growth, 250, neutrality. Philanthropy, the art of sharing and giving. And just remember that when we give this number, it's not just to others, but everything is a reflection of self, right? And in his case, it's a frequency of 50, apathy. So there was definitely a disconnect there. Intuition, overall number for intuition is 250. Under the aspect of clairaudience, it's a frequency of 100, fear. Clairsentience, 250. Clairvoyance, 250, and claircognizance, 250. Now, under the aspects of intelligence, IQ, 250, neutrality. EQ, also 250, neutrality. SQ, the social quotient, 175, pride. So there's definitely that frequency of not feeling at ease being in large groups of people. And AQ, adversity quotient, is the way that he dealt with challenging situations. And it's something that we inherit from ancestral patterns and also what we observe as children. So in his case, it's a frequency of 50. And it's interesting because he was born at 50. And 50 in AQ means that you dissociate, disconnect when a difficult situation appears, right? Almost like escape the reality in order to cope with the difficulties. Now, how much did he enjoy playing his role in this reality? 83%. In the ego, again, as Alejandro said, ego is thought, right? How much did he pay attention to thought? 92%. And out of that, 98% was inferior ego, which are the thoughts that make you feel like you're not good enough. In the now, 72%. Integrity, 94%. Integrity to himself, 100%. Integrity to others, 78%. Self-awareness, 88%. Clarity, 96%. Alignment with divine purpose, 100%. So it means he played his role in this reality, right, at 100%. So he achieved what he came here to be. And alignment with personal purpose is 100%. So it's interesting, right? This is why we always say we can never compare anyone's journey, because what one soul signs up to experience will be completely different when someone else did. But he did it well. Compassion and empathy both at 100%. So he was a very compassionate person.
Interesting. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. The next one would be Papa Chi. Puja.
Puja. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. He was born in 1910, died in 1997. He had his spiritual awakening with 8 years and realized himself fully and permanently with the advice of Ramana Maharshi, who pointed to him, God is not an object to be seen, he is the subject. He cannot be seen, he is the seer. Find this seer. And in 1966, he retired, settled in Lucknow, place in India where he received visitors and taught self-inquiry until his death in 1997.
Interesting. You know, one time, not too long ago, someone asked me, "Are you a psychic?" And then before I responded, it came to me, "No, you are a seer, right?" And for a moment, I guess the ego kicked in. Well, I'm a seer. But then I thought, okay, yeah, I'm a seer. But then everyone is a seer, right? Because we're all carrying God's energy within us. And it is God experiencing life through us. Like God is seeing through your eyes, God is touching through your fingers. So everyone is a seer, right? And it matches in a way, what he said, that is, that, you know, that he's a seer. I wouldn't call it he or she, because that would be personalizing God, right? And limiting it in a way. But yes. Now, he incarnated. It's a he, right?
Yes,
it's a he, yes, yeah.
Puja. Incarnated at a frequency of 250, level of neutrality, was born at a frequency of 50, level of apathy, and his overall frequency was 250. Also walked the hero's journey too, for himself, moved from the force end of the spectrum all the way to the power end of the spectrum, right? At 250. So huge difference when it comes to the way one feels and how it's experienced in life, right? Health, viewed health through the lens of fear at 100. Finances, 250, level of neutrality. Creativity, 400, level of reason. Relationships, 100, level of fear. Personal growth, 400. Philanthropy, 50, level of apathy. Intuition, 250, level of neutrality. Within intuition, we have clairaudience at 250, clairsentience, 250, clairvoyance, 200, and claircognizance, 250. Yes. Under the intelligence aspect, we have IQ at 250, EQ, 175, SQ, 250, and AQ, 50. The numbers are kind of similar to what you just
The previous,
shared, right?
Mhm. Interesting. Yeah.
In the joy, 95%. In the ego, 100%. Here's the difference between the two, I feel. And 79% of that is in the superior version of the ego. In the now, 91%. Integrity, 98%. Integrity to self, 100%. Integrity to others, 83%. Self-awareness, 100%. Clarity, 100%. Alignment with divine purpose, 98%. Alignment with personal purpose, 100%. Compassion, 79%. Empathy, 94%. Another great example of a hero's journey.
and also walking, right? Walking their path of what they came here for in this
To experience, right?
experience.
To learn.
It's also interesting because, I mean, the little I understand from the teaching is that you are not your personal identity. And so my question then also would be, if this is the measurement is the personal identity, the personal I, but they're striving for is to disidentify with the personal I, to not optimize it, like in terms of like transform this ego into something, but disidentify actually with that personal I. So you could also put that in the context that there, from that perspective, it doesn't matter at what frequency the personal I actually
Right.
vibrates with. So I don't know, that's
But here's
that's
the key
interesting.
for people to recognize. In order to not person or disconnect, right, from the persona, I would say you have to get out of your own way, which is the ego. And in his case, his ego ruled him at 100%, and he was in the superior ego. So there was definitely, with low levels of compassion, narcissistic tendencies, and the integrity to others that was not very high. Also says that what he put out is not really what he was feeling
Fully,
right? Fully. And yes, it would stay accurate if, let's say, the ego was at 50%. And usually we see that when it goes 50 or below, right? Or even 60 and below, and it becomes more balanced, like 50-50 or 51-49, superior, inferior, that's when you truly get out of your own way and you begin to embody your own teachings.
Interesting.
But all the numbers
are perfect for him.
Like in this case as well, they're perfect, right? Because that's what he came here to experience.
That's right.
Right.
Interesting.
He decided what ingredients to use in his recipe, you know?
Yeah.
And how much of it.
Yeah, I believe we have one or two more teachers, no? And then,
yes, a couple more.
Yeah. Okay, the next would be Ramesh Balsika. He was a disciple of Nisargadatta Maharaj, and yeah, wrote many books, and also received guest daily. He lived from 1917 to 2009. Yeah.
Mm. All right, Ramesh Balsekar, incarnated at the frequency of 350, born at the frequency of 50 apathy. So again, this had massive, massive doubt, right? A frequency. And his overall frequency was 350 acceptance. So he looked at the world through the lens of acceptance. Now, health, he viewed through the lens of 350, again, acceptance, finances, neutrality, 250, creativity, 400. So he had a creative mind. Relationships, he viewed through the lens of pride, 175. So that was not fully processed, right? Personal growth, 540. Joy. So it brought him joy to do things related to personal growth. Philanthropy, 175. Intuition, 350. And under intuition, clairaudience, 350. Clairsentience, 400. Clairvoyance, 250. And claircognizance, which is that inner knowing part, is 500, love. Under the aspects of intelligence, IQ, 250, neutrality, EQ, 350. So he relied more on the emotional intelligence. And we talk about it a lot because emotional intelligence is far superior than intellect. SQ, social quotient. How did he do in large groups of people? How did he feel? And for him, it was a frequency of 200, courage. And AQ, the adversity quotient, is 50, which is disassociation, disconnect. He enjoyed his role, 98%. So he had fun being himself. In the ego, 93%. And out of that, 96% inferior ego. So again, that ego is high, right? In the now, 97%. So he was very much connected and present. Integrity, 100%. Integrity to himself, 100%. Integrity to others, 94%. So I would say that's high level of integrity based on his own belief systems. Self-awareness, 100%. Clarity, 100%. So it's an indication that he mastered that frequency of 350 because his level of perceived inner and outer world and his clarity was at 100%. Alignment with divine purpose, 100%. Alignment with personal purpose, also 100%. Again, he walked his journey exactly as he was meant to do it, and he did it. Compassion and empathy, 100%. So he was also a very compassionate person.
Interesting.
Fascinating, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. And I would say that because someone doesn't get to experience full alignment with their 100% alignment with their divine purpose, it doesn't mean that they failed, you know? It just means that that's what they signed up for, or that's what they wanted to experience in this lifetime, you know?
Thank you. Yeah. And the last but not least, as a teacher, he's the only living one, is Wayne Lickerman. He was a student of Ramesh Balsekar, and according to him, he became enlightened in 1989. He has written several books and shares non-dual teachings through the so-called Advaita Fellowship.
Interesting. Wayne incarnated at the frequency of 200, level of courage, and was born at the frequency of 50, level of empathy. And his overall frequency is 350, level of acceptance. He's still alive, right?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
He views health through the lens of fear at 100, and this is like the why behind it, right? That's of what emotion gets activated when we're making decisions related to the aspect of health. Yes, what is the the narrative
Mm-hmm.
that happens, right? I said, rather I do things because I don't want to be sick, I don't want to get sick, I don't want to look like this or feel like that. That has a fear element. Or if I say I'm doing this because I feel better when I do it, or I experience a better feeling, then the decisions are not being made based on fear, are being made based on a higher frequency. So it has something to do with the level of health that one is experiencing. He could be very healthy now, you know, but eventually I will say that often happens that if that fear gets activated too often, then eventually will impact our physicality, and it will show up in symptoms to let us know that there are imbalances things that need to be balanced, right? Finances, he views finances through a lens of acceptance at 350. Creativity, 400, level of reason. Relationships, 350, level of acceptance. Personal growth, 700, that's the level of enlightenment, or where enlightenment begins. Philanthropy, 250, level of neutrality. Intuition, 350. Within intuition, we have clairaudience at 350, clairsentience, 350, clairvoyance, 350, and claircognizance at 350. Under the intelligence aspect, we have IQ at 310, which is the level of willingness. EQ, emotional quotient, is at 500. That's wonderful. SQ, 400, and AQ, 200. Now we're going to Indie Joy, 98%.
That's great.
So he's having a blast with the role that he's playing. He's weighing in this reality.
Great.
He's enjoying himself. In the ego, how much he pays attention to thought is 85%. And 78% of that is the inferior version of the ego. In the now, 95%.
Great.
Also, it's a reflection of his commitment to personal growth, right? That's 700. Integrity, 100%. Integrity to self, 100%. And here I'm a little disappointed about this measurement.
What comes now?
Yeah, integrity to others, 100%.
He's in full integrity. It's beautiful.
Okay.
It's really special. Yeah.
Nice.
Self-awareness, 97%. I was kidding when I said I was.
I imagined.
Clarity, 96%.
Yeah.
Alignment with divine purpose and personal purpose is at 100%. Compassion, 100%. Empathy, 100%. Energy purity, 100%. And then this case means that he is embodying the 350 frequency, the level of acceptance, fully. So he's at any given moment will be experiencing the next level up, which is the 400 level, right? But for him, will be a lot easier to transcend to higher levels because he already knows what the 700 level feels like under personal growth, Now, dimensions. When it comes to dimensions, he's experiencing the fifth dimension 79% of the time. And this includes also during dream state. Yes.
And I'll say this is actually an unusually high number for someone with 350 frequency, but it also makes sense because his work is in personal growth and it's at an enlightenment frequency. So therefore, he spends probably most of the time teaching right? And he enjoys it fully. And so it makes sense
Uh-huh.
that his number is so high. And he lives actually what he's teaching, which is beautiful.
And what he experiences during dream state is a reflection of what he's experiencing throughout the day, right?
Yes.
During awakened hours.
Yes.
Interesting, yeah. Yeah, it's surprising also, yeah, but it's yeah, nevertheless interesting. So thank you very
Is
much
there somebody that you follow? Is that why you're surprised?
no, I read but Ramana Maharshi is the one
Okay.
I don't know, follow, but I look into his looked like his teachings, no, and like, and then as a matter of curiosity, as there are kind of different paths from there and different teachers, I thought that would be interesting to kind of look into that universe, or like look at which teachers like yeah are following, or like that teaching in one way or another. Yeah, but I'm not following them in that sense. But yeah, but I know there are quite some followers in the like Europe Western part, so that was a little bit like the reason also why to kind of connect them together. So thank you very much for them. There was then also, and I mean, you mentioned before states of consciousness or the scale of consciousness. So I thought it would be interesting to maybe look at different mentioned states of consciousness, and also see at what level of consciousness they measure at with the scale of consciousness, something which is referred to as, or yeah, it literally means being consciousness bliss. It's Satchit Ananda, and I don't know. Did you measure that?
Let's see, Satchitananda. Yes, we did. Satchitananda. We did.
Yeah, if you like, I can read.
So we just measured that word, right?
The frequency of that.
Frequency,
okay.
And it's a frequency of 1000.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I can read a little description because it actually reads very nice.
Of course. Yes.
Yeah. So that is from Ramana's teaching. He thought that the self is pure being, a subjective awareness of I am that is completely free from the feeling of I am this or that. There are no subjects or objects in the self, only an awareness of being. Since this awareness is conscious, it is also called consciousness. The direct experience of this consciousness is a state of uninterrupted happiness, and therefore the term Ananda or bliss is used for it. And these three aspects, being, consciousness, and bliss, are experienced as a whole and not as separate qualities of the self.
That's beautiful. I had chills when you were reading it. Like my whole being was confirming it. Yes.
They were not as strong as yours, but I was feeling too.
Interesting.
Yeah, it matches the frequency, you know.
And then we measured the state of jnana, and it also measured at 1000 frequency.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. And then I don't know. You also looked into the three samadhis. So samadhi refers to advanced states of meditation in which either the self is consciously experienced or a deep unbroken immersion into an object of meditation. And Ramana classified basically them into three samadhis. Yeah.
Is it the Kavala?
Nirvikalpa,
Nirvikalpa?
Samadhi, yes.
That one?
Yeah, so one
Or-
is the Sahaja Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which is the state of dhyana, self-realization, and the yani is someone who is fully self-realized, and that refers to the final and irrevocable extinction of ego.
Okay.
So
Let's do the Kavala Nirvikalpa Samadhi.
yeah,
That's
so
the
yeah, that precedes this final stage of
Okay.
jnana, and it's a temporary, effortless self-awareness, but the ego is not yet completely extinguished.
Yeah. So that's 540, frequency of 540, which is joy.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
And then
Makes sense.
yeah, Savikalpa Samadhi.
Yeah. So that would be self-awareness through constant effort.
400.
When attention wanes, self-awareness begins to disappear.
Okay, so that's 400. So that's the mind, right? The
Okay.
analytical mind.
Right, otherwise, yeah, right. That's linked to the effort, right? The other one, joy, is
flowing.
getting closer to
Being
effortless.
effortless.
And then the first one, that would be what you measured before as jnana, no?
1000.
Yes. Okay.
Right, that will be without any effort, or just flawless, or in the flow fully, right?
Yes.
And there's one interesting description to this yani, or to this state with jnana. So the name for this samadhi is called Sahaja Nirvikalpa, and Sahaja means natural, and Nirvikalpa means without difference. So as described, in jnani behaves naturally in this state, just like ordinary people, knowing that he is the self. He sees no difference between himself and others, no between himself and the world. And for such a person, everything is a manifestation of the indivisible self.
That's so beautiful.
Mhm.
And it's also a confirmation of what I shared a little earlier with you, that we've noticed this pattern with people that we have read and also interviewed who have these high frequencies of example, 700, 850, like Bruce Lipton had this frequency of 850, and higher in his personal growth. You can see this where it's truly a connection to all, right? And a recognition of self within each one. So absolutely, I can see where as you get closer to this 1000 frequency, it reveals itself very similar in how a person is being.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Do we? So the next thing would be to look into a couple of different ways or different routes to self-realization, and the method Ramana Maharshi proposed or taught as the most effective one is what he labeled self-inquiry. So it was literally questioning the mind. I can read a little description. Is the constant attention to the inner awareness of I, or I am, the most efficient and direct way of discovering the unreality of the I thought, the ego? Ramana taught that the I thought will disappear and only self-awareness remains, which results in an effortless awareness of being. And by staying with it, the self-awareness gradually destroys the vasanas, karmic imprints, which caused the I thought to rise. And finally, the I thought never rises again, which is self-realization or liberation.
All right. So the frequency of self-inquiry is 200, courage, which to me makes absolute sense. It takes courage to question yourself, right? And everything around you. Yeah. And I always reference this, actually, frequencies to opening your wings, because it takes courage, right? To really jump.
Interesting.
Yeah?
But there's still
there's a lot to discover.
Right.
You can fall, you can jump and fall, but then it's getting up and doing it again. Right?
Yeah, interesting. And again, according to Ramana, self-inquiry was the most direct way to realize the self. However, and that's you could say that also refers to, you could say, the scale of consciousness. He spoke of relative truths and proposed, depending on the understanding or progress of the devotee or student, other approaches, such as the 4 ways or classical ways of yoga. And so my hypothesis is that also depending on where you resonate, a different way might be what you are attracted to. So that would be interesting to see if you measure the difference in these classical ways of yoga. And Ramana called the yoga ways as suppression of the mind. So that's quite interesting. The other one, self-inquiry, as questioning the mind, and the ways of yoga to suppress the mind. So that that's interesting. Yeah, karma yoga, for example, is the yoga of action. Yeah, and it's a part of unselfish action. Teaches that the spiritual seeker should act according to dharma, where there's no direct translation for this word, but you could commonly translate it as righteousness, merit, or religious moral duty. So should act without being attached to the fruits or personal consequences.
Karma yoga, right? Also called karma maga, vibrates at the frequency of 200, level of courage.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yes, I feel that it all depends on which way you. Yeah, there's no need to suppress the mind, because by wanting to suppress, you could actually expand that which you want to walk away from or no longer experience, because there is resistance and suppression.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And so the best way will be for the mind to find ease or experience ease on its own. And that can only happen through relaxation. And yoga can definitely take you there, but without being wanting to quiet the mind. But the mind has to quiet on its own without wanting to suppress the mind. Right? So, and that will be by tuning in and going inward and becoming one with the exercise, or one with the breath or the mechanics of breathing. And then the mind quiets on its own, then the resistance is released. See? So there's no really, by wanting to suppress it, where we can actually prolong the process of releasing the resistance that we want to, in order to experience an expanded version of whatever feeling we're experiencing at the moment.
So there are 3 other ways of yoga. One is the yoga of wisdom or knowledge, is jnana yoga, and Ramana Maharshi was in a way practicing or teaching that, the intellectual path, or essentially deep inquiry to the nature of the self.
Makes sense. It's a frequency of 400. So that's very much a mind frequency, right? Analytical frequency, so the inquiry.
Interesting. Yeah. And the next one would be Bhakti Yoga, which comes from Sanskrit Bhaj, means to serve God, a practice of selfless devotion and recognition of the divine in everything. And the intention when practicing Bhakti Yoga is to devote oneself to the divine in everything, thereby realizing the union of the individual self with universal consciousness.
Interesting. What the difference will be between the one that vibrated at 200 and like the self-inquiry, which is part of the previous one, right?
Right.
But the previous one vibrates at 400 instead of 200.
Yeah.
What the self-inquiry vibrates at. But I will say that in this case is
the Bhakti Yoga,
right? It vibrates at 400, which is a great frequency. So it's a combination of the two, right? Becoming one experiencing this oneness by quieting the mind, right? So,
But this frequency is still the mind.
but it's still
Interesting,
that will be interesting to really pinpoint the difference between the two, right? To go in deeper
yeah,
to why one vibrates at 200, the self-inquiry, and then the yoga technique vibrates at 400 when it's incorporating or mentioning the self-inquiry as well, right?
yeah. Interesting, yeah. And the last one would be Raja Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga, and that's kind of the yoga which incorporates body, mind, spirit in a sense. It's yoga of mind and body control with a focus on meditation and energetics. And it's from Raja Yoga that Hatha Yoga and modern asana practices developed.
I see. That makes total sense.
Because it's an embodiment
And it
practice.
says focused on meditation, right? It goes with what I mentioned earlier.
Yes, exactly. That would be that kind of.
Yes, not to prove myself right or wrong, but we mentioned this earlier that it is about quieting the mind, but the mind gets quiet on its own as long as we become one with our breath, you know, and pay attention to the mechanics of breathing. And that's what you just mentioned. That is
there are basically like eight steps of yoga. No, it's self-control, it's discipline, it's physical exercises, breath exercises, withdrawal of the senses from external objects, concentration, meditation, and then samadhi, complete realization. So that would be that
the embodiment practices.
what Raja Yoga would incorporate.
So in a way, they become one with themselves by releasing, and the meditation helps to release the resistance, and that makes it easier to feel that oneness.
So the frequency is 500.
To feel that flow.
I know we didn't give it away.
500.
500. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I didn't have any expectations, but well, it's interesting. Yeah.
Yes.
To reflect a little bit on that. Yeah, and another thing, the last conversation we had worldviews, and that was quite interesting. And so, yeah, I don't know if you can call them worldviews, but rather maybe creation theories of how what we perceive as reality, yeah, is actually created, and there are yeah, there are 3 proposals or theories. I believe the third is where everything we measured last time would fit into, and I can probably like just briefly explain or try to explain the first one. No, it's called Achatavada. It was a theory of non-causality, and that means, or that the theory is that, or this from an ancient Hindu view, that creation never happened. Yeah, it is a complete denial of any causality in the physical world. And also Ramana reinforced this view by saying that it is the experience of the jnani, the enlightened one, that nothing ever comes into being or passes away, because only the self exists as a single unchanging reality. And it follows from this theory that time, space, cause and effect, all essential components of all theories of creation, exist only in the mind of the ajnani, which is the unenlightened, and that the experience of the self reveals their non-existence. Yeah. So.
Oh, I have chills everywhere.
Yeah,
well, okay, the frequency of that, are you ready?
Yeah.
1000.
Okay, yeah.
We can continue with the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very interesting challenge, quite some perceptions. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if you like, I can read a few more words about it, but I don't know if it's
I think
whatever
it's
you feel.
Whatever you feel.
It's interesting as a This theory does not deny the reality of the world, but only that there is a process of creation that brought it into being. Speaking from his own experience, Ramana said that the Jnani, the enlightened one, sees the world as real, but not as a composition of matter and energy interacting, but as an uncaused appearance in the self. He went on to say that the true essence or substratum of this appearance is identical with the being of the self, and thus necessarily participates in its reality. Thus, the world is real for the Jnani, not simply because it appears, but because the true essence of that appearance is inseparable from the self.
Mm-hmm.
The Anjnani, the unenlightened one, on the other hand, is unaware of the unity and cause of the world, and consequently his mind creates a delusory world of separate interacting objects, constantly misinterpreting the sensory impressions he receives. And this way of looking at the world is as unreal as a dream, since it superimposes a creation of the mind on the reality of the self. He summed up the difference between the Jnani and the Anjnani viewpoints by saying that the world is unreal when the mind perceives it as a collection of objects, but real when it is directly experienced as an appearance in the self.
It's kind of like a video game, if you imagine, right? And we talk about before, like, you know, being in the matrix and outside of the matrix, right? And that's the kind of the two different stages of, you know, when you're trapped in this victim mentality, right? And then you're allowing for your mind to have all these different interpretations and the illusions of separation, which is 200 and below frequency. And our state of humanity at the moment is going through that illusion of separation.
What is the current vibration?
Well, last time we checked, I think it was what, December? December was fear, 100.
Yes,
so
okay,
I haven't reset it lately, but it's absolutely, and it's very palpable, right? You can feel the separation.
This year we're supposed to experience the level of desire 125, going to 125. Yes.
But then also, if I recall it correctly, a while ago you measured it at 200, right, or something?
230 or something. So
230.
We had a massive drop.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So the other theory of creation is it's called Drishti Shrishti. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. It's a simultaneous creation through perception. So that the world comes into existence with the emergence of the I thought and ceases to exist when the thought is absent. This theory states that the world of the Anjnani, the unenlightened, is a product of his mind, and that it disappears when the mind disappears. So that, yeah, that I would translate it that the world is a projection of my mind. If I don't think or I'm in deep sleep, there is no world.
Ooh, also gives me chills. Frequency of 1000.
It was interesting because when we had the last conversation, the highest worldview we measured, or you measured at 700, and we were wondering what other worldview or theory might be. You know? Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
So this is a continuation of something we started 6 months ago with you, the inquiry into the nature of reality, right?
Yeah. Okay, and the last one, it would be the gradual creation theory, Shrishti Drishti. It's a common sense view which holds that the world is an object reality governed by laws of cause and effect, which can be traced back to a single act of creation. This includes practically all essential ideas about creation, from the Big Bang to a biblical story of creation.
The vibrational frequency is 100, level of fear.
Okay.
Kind of goes with that round earth. Remember theory?
Yeah. Yes.
It's exactly the same frequency.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I
How much none of us really know.
I think that Bruce Lipton, or in your conversation with him, mentioned also that I think he quoted Nature magazine, right? That the study, or someone there published a study that our universe is a mental projection, or a mental product of the mind. Yeah, very interesting. Thank you so
That could be kind of frightening, right? To recognize yourself as a creator, and goes back to actually what he talked about, that we create everything we're experiencing, including this very moment, right, of what's happening in the world, and how important it is to claim your sovereignty and recognize that we are creating with our thought, and how can we shift what we want to experience based on shifting our thoughts. So yes, I think goes in alignment with those 1,000 frequencies of
that literally there is only perception, right?
Yes.
That there is only what we perceive it.
What we perceive and how we process what we perceive, what is being perceived.
That whatever there is, and we attach the meaning to it. Right?
Yes.
And then whatever frequency that whatever it is that we attach a meaning to is vibrating at, that's what we attract alike, and therefore that's what will be projected, or that will be a reflection of what we're experiencing, or will be reflected into our reality. I think this.
I believe about this we can meditate.
There's a lot to meditate
hours and weeks and months.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge concept and could be overwhelming and frightening in many ways, right? Like how? But anyway, yes, so there's a lot to contemplate on.
Yeah, because it takes to let go of the known, right? It gives a sense of safety and security.
The control.
Because the things, the information has been proven to work or not work. At least we know that rather it works or doesn't work. So detaching from that, which is thought, right? And we know that thought is limited because it's rather proven to work or not work. Detaching from that is scary, right? That's change. And the change activates the ego or the mind that freaks out because it's unknown territory. And it wants you to wants to pull you back to what is known. Right? So that is a constant conflict. But we have the ability to break through, and as the more we feel that it is possible, based on the conviction that God is experiencing life through us, right? And is experiencing life through us and imbuing us without any judgment whatsoever, the stronger that conviction is, the easier it is to rely more on our intelligence than the intellect.
Yeah, maybe the last measurement fits in quite well to that, because if we think of like what is the world, what is reality, are there mechanisms to it, are there laws governing how this perceived reality is projected as a construct of the mind? And one of the things which I encountered and also learned and studied a little bit are the 7 Hermetic principles. And I believe you also prepared a measurement or some numbers, no? Right? And also of Hermes Trismegistus, who is said to, I believe, was the first who wrote about the 7 Hermetic principles, and that's also why they are named or termed after him.
Yes. Let's reveal Hermes. So Hermes, based on what we've been reading, also brought Babylonian astrology to humanity. So that was a fascinating concept for us to learn, after we learned about his frequencies. So for those people that are curious in exploring Babylonian astrology, that would be an amazing tool.
Which I think is beyond planets, right?
Yeah, it's not looking at tropical astrology. Again, we're not astrologers.
Oh, yeah, me neither.
But it's not the personality, it's looking at constellations, right? At like bigger missions and things of why we're here. And I know Lada has a channel on YouTube. She's done a couple of episodes with us as well, and she uses Babylonian astrology.
Astrolada.
Channel. Yes. For us, I just want to give a little background story.
Yes, please. Yeah.
It was a massive realization because we've measured a few avatars. And for those people that have listened to some of our previous episodes, I'm going to say 2 of the avatars that we've measured previously were Yeshua, or Emmanuel, known as Jesus Christ, and Mary Magdalene. And just to keep it all in perspective, they were identical frequencies, identical numbers. And then, of course, you send us this list. I've never heard of, I've heard of Hermes, but I have no idea what the concept is. He is identical to the other 2 beings that we just measured. So this is an absolute avatar. And it makes you realize, for us, it was a big aha moment that throughout history, we have these avatars that show up to bring some kind of information and wisdom is a better word, to humanity. And then we just happened to watch a film, and I can reflect on it afterwards. And I thought, this is what this is. Anyway, let's give out his frequencies, because this is very relevant.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Incarnated at a frequency of 1,000, born at a frequency of 1,000. And for those of you that are inquiring, what is an avatar frequency? This is.
Wow.
And his overall frequency was 1,000. Health he viewed through the lens of 1,000, finances 400, and again, these numbers are identical to Yeshua and Mary Magdalene. Creativity 1,000, relationships 1,000. Here's a very interesting point: personal growth 0. And in our previous inquiries, we realized that because of the other 2 beings that had exactly this, it's a 0-point field. It's a reflection of 0-point field of where everything is transmuted. Philanthropy, 1,000. Intuition, 1,000. All 4 aspects of intuition: clairaudience, clairsentience, clairvoyance, claircognizance, 1,000. Now, under the levels of intelligence, IQ, 1,000. EQ, 1,000. SQ, of course, how you do in social settings. And in some cases, which we've done some episodes on, like rock stars and other beings, other people. And in this case, for Hermes, SQ was 700. So it means he was a very magnetic being, right? There's a level of magnetism, charisma. AQ, adversity quotient, 500. So he viewed challenging situations with an open heart. Enjoyed his role 100%. In the ego, 17%, and it was 50-50 inferior superior. So this is a great example of what it's like to get out of your own way, right? And to bring the wisdom for humanity. In the now, 100%. Integrity, 100%. Integrity to self, 100%. Integrity to others, 100%. Again, this is in relationship to 1,000 frequencies. Self-awareness, 100%. Clarity, 100%. Alignment with divine purpose, 100%. Alignment with personal purpose, 100%. Compassion, 100%. Empathy, 100%. So this gave us chills. I said, oh my God, these numbers are exactly the same as some of the other beings we've revealed. So yeah, there are beings that enter this reality to bring something really important for humanity. And of course, one of those things you've asked us to read is the 7 Hermetic Principles.
Yes, yeah.
Which I've never heard of until you send us the list. And I'm like, okay, let's look into it.
Yes, I can even briefly
yes,
share
please.
the the 7 hermetic principles, or the first one is the principle of mentalism. The all is mind, the universe is mental. And there's also a book called the Kybalion. I can put it into the show notes so that those who are interested can read about those hermetic laws, which describes them. It's a very small book. And the second one is the principle of correspondence, as above, so below, as below, so above. The third, the principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. The fourth, the principle of polarity. Everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. And a bit more. And the fifth, principle of rhythm. Everything flows out and in, everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. Sixth, the principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. And the principle of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. Yeah.
And as within, so without.
That's right.
As without, so within.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yes.
The 7 hermetic principles. Overall vibrational frequency 700. Level of enlightenment, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Integrity 100%. Clarity 96%. Alignment with divine purpose 100%. Alignment with its mission 100%. Transparency 100%. And we thought, okay, if the being who brought this information vibrates at 1000, how come this 7 hermetic principles vibrate at 700, right?
Yeah.
What comes to your mind?
Oh, it makes sense, no? Because if we just remember the numbers for the other 2 theories of creations, which imply that there are no laws, no, it would mean that at some understanding or perspective, you have to drop what you know to actually discover that there are then no laws anymore. So I don't know if I can explain it, but it's like intuitively it makes sense. Yeah, that laws can only explain up to a certain frequency things, and then you have there's no like logic anymore. It's
exactly.
I don't know, like
that's
comes to
great.
mind. Yes.
Very well
Perfect.
said.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's really interesting. Yeah, that kind of from different perspectives. But
you know, so I went to watch a documentary on YouTube because after that I said, what are those 7 hermetic principles? And there's a great documentary, the Kabbalion, I forgot the name of it. It's a Kabbalion documentary. And then I said, I wonder if Kabbalah stems from it as well, right? The study of Kabbalah, which is a mystical school. And absolutely, if you start reading some of the things and some of the principles that it also embodies, they're very similar. So that was very interesting. And I don't remember, we did an episode on Kabbalist. It's been like last year we did it, so I'd have to go back, but it had some similar frequencies.
The Hebrew alphabet too.
Yeah, the Hebrew alphabet was mind-blowing. Yes.
I believe those principles are also called alchemical principles, right? It's like how to transmute also kind of your own emotional lead into emotional gold by applying those laws. And yeah, I mean, I'm with my personal understanding, I'm just scratching the surface, yeah. But like what I understand, like yeah, if you dive into it and you can see how you are creating your circumstances, and by understanding that you see how you're creating your shit in a way, but also to understanding, or you can see how from one perspective you're responsible for your situation, and through that understanding, like I'm responsible, I kind of created these circumstances, but that also means if I'm responsible, I can also change or create it in a different way. So
Yes.
that was something which was very helpful for me to like at least understand.
Realize that is extremely powerful.
Also apply, yeah.
Mhm.
So that, yeah, I have to say with the conversation today, I was not as expected. but very, very interesting, definitely. Yeah, and a lot of food for thought. Yeah.
I hope you enjoy surprises.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah.
We did too. I
We
mean,
were also surprised.
You said before to leave the mind, or which wants to know, like behind. So this is the perfect opportunity, yeah, to
Uh-huh.
discover the unknown. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Yeah, thank you so much for
thank
You're
you.
welcome.
So much
the efforts and providing us with this information. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Are we doing Emery?
Oh yeah, okay. There's yeah, okay, true. Yeah, I didn't think about him anymore. Yeah, he's
We finished on a high note. I think let's leave it at that.
Okay, yeah, we can do
We
it.
tried-
okay. Yeah,
Yes,
okay. Then let's leave it
that's
like that.
perfect.
Another episode. Yes.
I was better end to. Huh?
I think it was a perfect ending to today.
Yeah, I
Close to
believe
the
so
gold
too.
medal.
Yeah. I mean, dear listeners, no, for like, I will, of course, add your web pages and where people can get learn more about you and also look into your past revelations. Yeah, I will provide the context and in the show notes so that everybody who is curious, wants to know more, can discover that. Is there something else you wanna share with us, the listeners?
I think, I mean, for us, this, as always, this is such a pleasure to, first of all, to have a list and explore something we've never been aware of, right? So thanks to you for putting this together, because it opened us up to exploring deeper and further. And there's so many questions, right? Because it opens you up to realizing, wow, how much none of us truly know. And it's through our mind that we want to control the information and what we're being fed as information. But in reality, there's so much more. And it's also given us an insight of we're truly limitless. And we can create magic in our life depending on where we choose to bring our attention to. So let's create magic. How about that?
Create more magic.
Yes. So thank you.
Perfect ending. Nothing to add. Yeah. Well, I hope Alejandro, it was not that awful. Yeah.
No. Actually, I feel much better now. Thanks to you.
Yeah.
It wasn't painful at all.
Oh yeah, okay. Then I'm relieved. Thanks for confirming. Otherwise, I would not have been able to sleep tonight.
Right.
Yeah. Well, okay. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and also to you listeners, thank you for being open and curious. And I'm sure there are some impulses to further investigate and reflect upon. So thank you very much. And till the next time.